Hello, welcome everyone. Welcome to another episode of Vibe Check by SAWO Labs. We're now on our episode 9, and today we are discussing something really cool, something that every engineer kind of dreams to achieve. It's a topic that's very near to my heart because as a developer or as an engineer, the first thing that I learned was that just a piece of code is not enough. You have to make it into an entire full-fledged product. I learned system analysis design or product management, everything for this topic only. And I'm really grateful to be joined by somebody who's not just currently a senior product manager, but also has seen product management as a vertical in various companies. His skill and his abilities are insane. Everybody at my team is really excited to have him here. So, without further much ado, I want to invite Rishabh Srivastava, who is the senior product manager at Flipkart. Hi, Rishabh. How are you?
Hey Cherish, hi, how you doing? Thanks a lot for having
Doing
me here.
well. I'm doing well. I'm really happy that you're here. And it was fun catching up with you backstage. I'm really excited about this. I think every engineer is basically because this is something that not every this is not something that we are taught. Building zero to one. What does that mean even, right? Like this, I think the first time I heard building zero to one was probably from a Peter Thiel book. Yeah,
Yeah. That's like a most famous book out there on building from zero to one for sure.
is that how it started? You should tell us more about like your journey and then how did you land here where you are today?
Yeah, so it's actually quite an interesting journey. So I passed out in 2015. While I was in college, my dream was to actually get into consulting. So when I
Hmm.
got into EYs, I was quite excited about it. Hey, I got like a dream job that I wanted to have. So I joined EY, and we were actually into digital consulting with some of the clients that we had. So while I was in that digital consulting job, is when I realized that hey, I was working very closely with a lot of PMs in different spaces, seeing how they are building out products, etc. And that's where I realized, hey, I mean, this goes beyond consulting and
Hmm.
actually uh, thinking about ideas, thinking about products, and actually legit from ideation to product is something that a PM does day in and day out. So that's where back in 2016 I made the switch and I joined Geo as a PM, and it's been a very interesting journey ever since.
Awesome. So how long has it been at Flipkart? How many teams you worked with?
Yeah, so it's been 3 years with Flipkart. For the first 1.5 years, I was with the mobile apps and category experiences team. There, I was looking into a couple of things. One of the things is something that SAWO is already in. I was taking care of the login funnel and the login and the sign up experience, along with category experiences, which essentially means how should buying fashion be different from buying a refrigerator versus buying mobile. Each of them has its own buying journey, own nuances, and uh, own elements to that drive growth and business for each of the categories. So that's what I was doing for the initial 1.5 months. Uh, for the past 16, 17 months, I've been working on a very, very new 0 to 1 charter at Flipkart known as
Mhm.
commerce gamification, which essentially means how do you gamify the core buying journey of the user to make them buy more and make them repeat more. So yeah, that's what I've been up to for the past 3 years at Flipkart.
Awesome. So tell us what does being like from building zero to one even mean? Does it what is zero in this aspect and where do you how do you establish you reached one?
Yeah, so that's actually a very interesting question. So, uh, personally, the way I see 0 to 1 depends on the context there is. When you think about a startup or something that doesn't exist, it's a 0 to 1 from an idea, from us write something from a scratch to coming out with a say MVP or a product of sort that you can actually test out in the market. That's a more classic definition of a 0 to 1. And there is another counterpart to it where there is an established product in any of the company which has its own product market fit, but you are expanding the horizons by launching something where you are exploring, say, you are in domain A. Now you decide to travel into domain B by launching a series of features, a series of products, a product line, and seeing if that makes sense. So, if you ask me, the journey, while the principles for both will remain the same, but the core journey of how it moves may differ when you're getting something right from scratch, or if you're building on something that's already existing out there in the market.
Fair enough. Very interesting. So you said like building 0 to 1 could not just be about a product, but also concept or an idea altogether.
Yeah,
Like you can
yeah,
theoretically take an idea also from 0 to 1 and still remain an idea.
absolutely,
Or
absolutely.
tell us more about this. I
So,
think just like
so
defining of the idea.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So the way, if you think about from an idea to product perspective, the most important part over there is your hypothesis validation. So there is a hypothesis that you start with that, hey, there is a gap or there is a problem statement that certain users are facing. And if I'm able to solve for that, there is some, say, uptake in the metrics or some kind of a business opportunity that lies over there. Now, when you think about the idea space as well, I will further bifurcate it into blue ocean and red ocean. Uh, Red ocean is something that already, where say that space exists, there is some validation in terms of some existing players doing the same thing, and you're trying to disrupt that those existing businesses by adding some services on top of what they already do. That's a typical red ocean. Blue ocean is something that has probably never happened or never been explored before. If you think about the earliest idea of a blue ocean market, is probably that I know of is how MacBook came into existence back in 1970 and 1980s. Back then, it was computers were something that industries used to consume. There was no concept of like a personal computer in place. And that's something that Apple brought in, and then Microsoft also came in, and that was like a blue ocean perfect in 70s and 80s. Um, so broadly, if you're thinking about idea, there is a hypothesis that you start with, and get as soon as you get like a hypothesis validation is when you go about building out the entire product. And there are very amazing recent stories as well. If you think about Misho, one of the perfect example, they are today valued at over $2 billion, and the way they started was first the validation of their core idea without building a tech product. So you do not need relevant, say, engineers or say tech co-founder or an engineering team to build out a product in order to test it out in the market. You can just do it ad hoc by just creating some very basic MVP and testing it against some target segments and seeing does it make sense for people. If it does, boom, you go about building out the entire product and then scaling it up. So
Fair enough.
that's the best way about how you should go about it.
Right. So if I understand this correctly, right, building 0 to 1 is like an iterative process. And you kind of do this on every segment that you have to do until you reach a product that you're happy with. Right?
Yeah,
Is that
yeah.
okay? Fair enough. So let's say
That's quite correct.
fair enough. And so let's say there is a developer who's kind of validated their idea
Mhm.
using what you just said. What should be the first way? Tell us a few ways of how we can build, at least make the idea from 0 to 1 from hypothesis point of view.
Yeah, so I think the ideal way to go about validating on the first step is the validation possible without even building a product.
Yeah.
You can actually test the waters by pure ops effort. Uh, for example, let's say I want to start something in edtech.
Mhm.
I want to like probably have some kind of a solution for say college students who have an exam coming up, and we know that people in college don't really study, so there is probably that space where I can invest in, and have like you have a maths exam in a week's. I'll get you a tutor and we'll cover the entire, say, applied mathematics course done within a week's time, right? So
Yeah.
that's a problem space that you identify. Now, you not the ideal way is you like, hey, there are students in a particular university. You reach out to them, you create like a community on a Telegram or WhatsApp, and tell them that, hey, I have tutors available in case you're looking for, say, applied maths, applied science, applied physics, or whatever subjects.
Yeah.
You reach out to me on the group, and I'll get you the tutor, and your course is done within a week. If you are able to do that for 100 students, then you know there is a scope for doing it for 1 million students. And
Yeah.
that's where the idea validation happens. As far as
Huh.
you are able to validate it within a small set of, say, 50 or 100 students, there's a great opportunity for you to actually investing in a product and scaling it up for 1 million or more users.
That's awesome. I like how you didn't even touch like not even no code platforms. You're like just WhatsApp, Telegram will do, and you can get yeah,
Absolutely, absolutely. No code is something that came into existence for past 1.5 years. That's where these platforms are actually. Wix has been there for a while, but
yeah,
now there are many more advanced no-code platforms that pretty much offer the same things that Wix does. Uh, so yeah, those are great options as well. Absolutely great options to validate. But if you're looking for just pure hypothesis validation, I people have been doing it is before these no code platforms came into existence as well. So yeah, I mean, why not?
fair
The
enough.
core objective is validation.
All right, so this I really like the idea as well. I think this is worth toying with, like giving somebody a tutor for a week and be like, "Ha, एक week may will teach you everything."
Yeah, of course. And if you know something works, you can then like have like a good validation in place. You can put a team of engineers, a PMs working together, creating a platform, and then you scale it up. That's like the
Yes.
best way to go about with driving growth as well. Yeah.
Cool. All right. So let's say I validated this idea. Let's say I find out 100 people who will come and subscribe to this tutor that I will give them for a week. What's my next step? What's my next thing that I should build from zero to one? Is it the product or is it like an MVP or like where do I start now?
Yeah, absolutely. So everything. MVP is extremely important. So once you have defined what is it that you want to build, there is a validation in place. The next step is defining what the product is going to look like. Now, when you start going about building the product, what people do is they kind of over-index on a lot of things. That hey, if I'm doing this, let's add A, B, and C, and as soon as I do A, B, and C, I'm not just solving for, say, tutors or students in college. I'm even solving for students in school, students in, say, postgraduate degrees, etc., etc. Now, that's a very, while the incremental effort to add a feature will can be very low, but that's where the product market fit, etc. pieces starts to break. The ideal way to go about with these things is you narrow down on a target segment that you want to solve for. It could be a niche segment as well to start with. But once you identify that, you build for them, you specifically solve for them, get like a basic MVP in place. And MVP has to be like a bare bone structure, right? So if I'm talking about this exact example which we spoke about, it would be something like, hey, it's only for college students. When you enter the app, you select the course, which is again like a drop down only. So I'm not solving for arts, I'm not solving for medical sciences, I'm just solving for engineering. So
Yeah.
you select engineering, you select university, probably there will be, say, different university, Maharashtra University, IITs, BITS, etc. You select the course. And I'll tell
Hmm.
you if there is a teacher available, if there is a match, hey, boom, you can go about building, or you can go about enrolling in the course and moving forward. So that's like the bare bones piece that you'll go about build. If you think about it, you don't even need payments to be integrated in the first step. Payments can happen offline. You
Yeah.
all the only thing that the core product needs to do is connect potential tutors and potential teachers together on the platform, and let that kind of knowledge exchange happen. So building out a correct MVP is extremely important in such a scenario.
Fair enough. All right, so let's say and you said this beautifully, right? Like a lot of engineers that I know, and I see this in hackathons all the time. They come up with a product and they're like, haha, ye bhi dal do, add a layer of ML, add intelligence, add something or the other, and then the end result is either it's just takes too much time or it's just incomplete. Is there like
Hmm.
a sweet spot where we think, huh, we've reached one? This is something that we can kind of call it like a day and kind of go ahead and test with.
So probably a definition of one would be when you have covered everything from a scope perspective, and
Hmm.
now the next objective, it depends on what the objective is, and now the immediate next objective is to scale it up for the similar
Yeah.
set of users. That's going to be a perfect definition of one, where you know that hey, I have got everything that I need uh, against this limited set of users that are coming, and
Hmm.
everything is working fine. Now the exact set of features, exact set of metrics needs to be extrapolated amongst a bigger set, is when you say that probably you have reached one and now you need to do from 1 to 10 to 100. Do keep
Yeah.
in mind, when from a technical standpoint, the moment you think about 1 to 10 or 1 to 100, the engineering work will never stop. Probably
Yeah.
from a end user perspective, consumer facing perspective, the features are perfectly nailed down. There's this tiny bit of ML that you have included. There are perfect set of features available. The streaming works well. The app works smoothly. But the moment you think about 1 to 10 or 1 to 100, you need to think about scale. You know, think
Yeah.
about backend infrastructure. So the work never ends. Probably from a end user perspective, they see the app isn't changing in the past 3 months, 4 months. It has remained the same. But hey, the work is going on, investing in scale. So those are the other pieces that you start investing about.
Fair enough. So if so just to paraphrase, right? You said like let's say there are you build a scope when you're building an MVP, and if
Yeah.
you've met the scope using whatever system you had to build, and that infra can kind of cater or to those 100 people, and you can meet that scope, you have reached one.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Fair enough. All right. Okay. Okay, what comes next? Let's say we have a product now, right? And now comes the actual deal where it kind of gets slightly bit of annoying for product manager because they have to now sell.
Yeah.
So they have a side narrative and a story to add. What happens then? Like, are there layers to that? Where should we begin our zero there?
So what exactly are you saying? Is there's a product that's already there, that's at a one
Yeah,
stage? How do you take it from 1 to 10 or 1 to 100? Is that the
yeah.
exact question, Cheryl?
All right, maybe I wasn't clear enough. So
Yeah.
let's say these 100 people in my college are now using my platform that I've built. It's a
Yeah.
platform that I host on a free hosting using AWS. Now I'm trying to
Hmm.
use this for another college, and that college
Perfect.
will potentially give me like 500 more students. It's a
Yeah.
neighboring college only,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
now now 500 people will probably use the same tutors I will. I will
Yeah. Yeah.
keep adding the inventory, but how do I
Yeah.
scale the product now?
Good question. Good question. So at this point, the way I'll treat this is, probably you have reached the one stage. You have a product market fit. You know something works well for this desired TG in a desired geography. Now you want to extrapolate it into, say, thousands of geographies within India, all tier two, tier one cities, metro cities. How do you do it? This is where pieces around growth comes in. And now, when I talk about growth specifically, I'll again break it down into two pieces. One is, say, product led growth, one is, say, business led growth.
Yeah,
Now, okay, so first let's cover the easy part, which is, say, the business led growth. Business led growth will focus on relevant marketing campaigns, relevant ad campaigns, SEO, ASO, all the defined customer touch points, classic marketing, uh, segmentation, targeting, positioning strategy that the business team will deploy, and they'll try increasing the top of the funnel. So the work of the business is to bring in the top of the funnel. Say, on a given day, your app had 500,000 users. You need to
yeah,
reach from 500,000 to 10 million. That cannot happen without business and marketing budgets. That's
yeah, for
the
sure.
business. That's business. Now let's come
Yeah,
to product led growth, right? Uh, let's say at 500,000 of users, you were converting at 10%. Okay.
hmm.
Now, your objective is, as we scale from, say, 500,000 to 2 million, that 10% should either remain constant, or that
Hmm.
10% should move from 10 to 15%. And that's where product led growth, and that's like that, according to me, is the bread and butter for a product manager. And that's where the PMs come in. Um, as you grow in scale, how do you optimize for the metrics continuously by improving a metrics from X to Y? And
Yeah,
that's where individual pieces of PM come in. So let's assume in this example, right? Now you have greater number of people coming in. Now, more number of people coming in means hazy search. I am landing.
yeah,
I've say narrowed down. I'm a second year student. Now there are Maharashtra board courses. There are, say, IIT. There is NITs. There's BITS, and there are all your regional universities. How do you narrow down which one am I looking for? That's where a search PM comes in. Hey, I'll solve for search. I'll make sure I'll take into consideration the location that the user is coming in from, or say the kind of queries that they are adding, and throw in the best result. Homepage PM, or say a backend PM, will come in and say, hey, I'll read the location from where the user is coming from, and I'll fill the homepage with all the location specific colleges. If somebody is coming from Punjab, I'll say all the college, show all the colleges in Punjab, in Mumbai, and so on and so forth. Um, so on and so forth. So every step of the funnel, there is a
Hmm.
product lead or a product manager which is optimizing for, and that's how you gradually keep moving a metric from 10% to 12 to 15 to 20, and you keep bringing in the product
Hmm.
led growth. So just getting top of the funnel is not enough. The real juice or the real goodness comes in when, say, these individual metrics also move along with the top of the funnel. So if you are able to say at just half a million base, if you are able to move from 10% to a 20% conversion, that's like a 2x growth in your revenue, in your core metrics and everything. So that's where core product management pieces comes in, is how I would look at it. So that's where you move from
Very.
1 to 10 or 1 to
That's so
100.
That's so beautifully explained, Rishabh. I can't believe like it's like everything you broke down everything. That's pretty cool. Thanks. All right, but at the same point in time, even if you reach a number where you're now serving 500 people, your mouth is like clearly, does it ever end? Are you like, is it, does there come a point where you think that my product is everything that it needs to be? All I have to do is just increase the top of the funnel, get more business using the same product, and just maintain the product in a way so that it kind of manages the inflow.
I think it does not. There never comes a point because irrespective of whatever you do, there will always this one particular piece with scale. Of course, there will be some pieces that you will always be lagging behind. At least that's what I've seen in 5 years
Yeah.
of my product experience. There are always these pieces that you can go after to drive growth. Even for say a non-digital company, right? Something like e-commerce, which is completely digital, but the supply chain is something that happens offline. So even if you solve for, there are PMs who specifically work on the supply chain pieces as well. So if you look at the entire gamut of e-commerce services, there are things on supply chain, there's some things on inventory, there's things on warehouse. Then comes your, say, the top of the funnel pieces. How do you search? How do you recommend? How does your checkout funnel looks like? There's so much to optimize at any point of time for any industry you grow in, even for something like a video streaming, right? Today at Hotstar, you have all the crazy content that's running in, but still they have
Yeah.
constructs like play and win in the IPL, etc. These are our individual pieces to drive growth. So that work absolutely never ends. It can never can be that, hey, I'm in a stable state, everything is working. The only thing you need to do is get more people. No, it doesn't work that way. There will always be something that you will be going after as a
Yeah.
product person.
So, so basically, you're saying like you have to. It doesn't end. It's endless. All you can
Endless.
do is just like build on it. A little by little. All right. So that brings me to a very pertinent question here, and I've struggled with it a little myself. Um, my question is that when you're building something, right? One of the ways to kind of know that you have met your scope is kind of a list or like a feature request curation, and then you build that one by one and one by one. How do you as a product manager like prioritize feature requests, and what do you build first?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question, right? So um, in a stable state where nothing is breaking, say you're in a state, if something is breaking, is a P0 issue which is breaking the core customer journey,
Yeah.
that has always has to be on your backlog, and that's where your typical engineering on call comes into the picture and always has to be prioritized first. But say if you're in a stable state and you have 10 or 20 list of features or capabilities in your backlog, how do you define which one to go after? The typical way, at least the way we do it, is you actually size each feature uh, in
Yeah.
two categories broadly. The first category is impact. Say if there are 20 features and there's one common metric that you're trying to drive. It could be say revenue, it could be say customer satisfaction score or a NPS, or it could be say incremental orders, it could be anything, whichever is your North Star metric for the company. So you first of them rank them with one single metric. You cannot rank two features on two different metrics because it doesn't make sense. It has to be one common metric on which you are ranking all the features. That's number one.
Yeah,
Number two
fair enough.
is that's where you bring in the engineering. And number two, you look at a ballpark estimate on the engineering effort required to do this. And when I say effort, I do not limit it to engineering. You should ideally take engineering and design also into consideration if it's like a B2C feature. If it's nothing to do with, say, design pieces of it, just take into consider the engineering uh, estimate required to build a particular feature. So you have impact, you have estimate metrics. The obvious mind will tell you that, hey, anything which has like the least effort and the maximum impact, you go for it first because it's the
Yeah,
lowest lying
low
it's a low
hanging
hanging
fruit.
fruit. You
Yeah,
go for that. Else you simply take a summation, divide both of them, come up with a numeric number and stack rank them one by one. There could be some potential projects which have a high impact, but the effort estimate for them is way too high. So you would not want to. It's your call. You would not want to probably invest that kind of energy right away. So take the low hanging fruits first, and then get them with one single score, so that you are objectively ranking all the features, and then you pick them one by one. This is that standard. That's something that we do, or at least we try to do. But of course, in this framework, if there's like a very critical issue that appears out of nowhere, of course that takes a priority. So yeah, but broadly that's the approach that we take.
fair enough. That's very well articulated. I was taking notes as you were speaking.
Okay.
Speaking of which, I think we have some questions here for you, Rishabh, if you want to take that. Rishabh, if you can put that up. Uh, yeah. This the first question is if we talk about an idea that is at level zero right now, ideally, how much time should go into validating that idea before we move on to the development part? Good question.
Good question. So if you ask me, it's actually not about how much time you should take. Uh, it's actually when does that idea validation or that hypothesis validation kicks in. In the same example of that tutor idea that we spoke about at the beginning, right? If I'm able to get, say, 5 colleges in a given geography to sign up or to join that Telegram group, and out of these 5 colleges, if I'm able to get at least 500 students to, participate or take the option to register themselves with some particular tutors we have to offer. And if that happens within, say, a week or two, great. You have a validation in 2 weeks, you can go about right away. But say if it takes a couple, on an average, there's no thumb rule to how much time you should take. It depends on when is it that the validation kicks in. Mostly for most of the folks that I know, it typically takes them a few months. It could be anywhere between 6 to 10 weeks that they typically invest in an idea. And I know a lot of folks who are very invested in an idea. And at some point of time, they realize, hey, this validation is actually not happening. And then they pivot
Yeah.
to something else. So that's a very important step, this idea validation. Uh, because if you're testing the waters and it comes to you that, hey, this is not working out, but hey, you know what? If you do something else, it might just. So they pivot at this stage, and it's a very good time to pivot to something else if you realize something is not working out it's supposed to.
Fair enough. So you're looking for a benchmark regardless of the time
Time.
duration, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Fair
So
enough.
it has to be a benchmark, but typically it's most cases it's somewhere between 6 to 10 weeks. People are able to wrap it up in that time frame.
Got it. All right. One more question is what we have. If we can pull that up. All right. Tanu Sharma asks, I'm really interested in product management. How should I start my study and journey in PM? Currently in first year at CSE.
Great, man. Great. This is good. So I think one of the advantages that come in such a scenario is because you come from you're doing engineering and computer science, you have a very good understanding of a computer system. So what I will recommend to you while you're in your first year of engineering is typically to grab the core pieces that you of, say, the computer science or the engineering tech in general. So how do the APIs work? What are
Yeah.
functions? What are, say, architecture level flow diagrams? As a PM, you're not expected to write code. but you 100% are expected to understand how the architecture or tech architecture works in the in say the B2C or the B2B space for that matter. So as far as you're able to grasp all that concepts, it should be easier for you to transition into a PM whenever you do, but that's not enough. The other things that you should have to think is, if you Google PM on anywhere, there's one diagram that will appear in almost like 95 out of those 100 websites, which is say product is intersection of three fields:
Yeah.
engineering, design, and business. And it's
Yeah.
very true. Actually, it's actually very true. So engineering part you seem sorted. The other pieces, design and business, is something you'll have to develop. But at the core of it, what I personally believe, uh, as a PM, one thing that you have to be extremely good at is problem solving.
Yeah.
There will be different kinds of problems that will be thrown at you. Identifying which problems to go after is still a skill that you can develop with time. But solving any problem thrown at you is something that you should be good at. So solving problem statement or problem solving is something that you should start investing in. But yeah, and the rest of the things should be sorted. But you're in your first year, man. 3 years is a long time to go. So I'm sure you'll be ready by the time you pass out. Yeah.
That's great. Just adding to what you just said, three things that kind of worked for me, or like three things that I say is, whenever I look at it, anything from a product point of view, I see if I can make the experience better or like easier. Like if I see any product, and if I can find a way, if I can make the entire journey a little easier and better, I'm looking at it from a product manager point of view. That's another thing. Second thing that I do is segmentation listing, which means sometimes there are different parts of a same product that I want to look like zoom into, and sometimes there are a lot of different segmented products you want to zoom out. Like a lot of CRM softwares are basically different segmentations just put together, right? If you can club things together, or if you can take a component or a system between the system and zoom in and out. One thing I've noticed, and Rishabh, you can validate. I don't know if this is something that you would vouch to. I've seen a lot of product managers who have great taste, right? Like artist level taste. They are really good at they're really good at making beautiful products. I don't know who it was. Somebody said that if products look beautiful, they will work beautifully.
That's a good point actually. That's a good point. I think it's kind of true as well. I personally know some of these amazing PMs who come from a in fact, one of the best PMs that I know is a lawyer by profession. and
Oh,
so it actually doesn't matter the background that you come with. As far as you're really good at something, it could be anything. It could be, say, design. They come up with beautiful products, or they have a very core product thinking in place, ingrained in their brains. As far as any of these things work, you can be a great PM in any of the industry. So
yeah,
yeah, I mean, I have seen some examples across as well. Yeah,
fair enough. I think we have another question. Lots of questions for you, Rishabh.
let's open it.
It's great. Hmm. Does
Does
it
it
come
come
under
under?
PM's response to make end user experience better?
Good question. So let me answer it with a question. Why would you make a user experience better? Why would you do that? You would typically do that so that the user does not face any problem in performing the objective they want to do. Um, if my objective is watching a video, can I make the experience better to make them watch the desired video in a better way? If my intention is to check out, can I change the experience to make it better way? So yes, it in if you think about from that perspective, it's very much a PM's responsibility to make the UX better. Uh, the reason why they do something versus another depends on the end metric that they're chasing. So if you are a PM in a, say again, in an e-commerce world and chasing conversion as a metric, you would continuously think about what are the things that I can do in the user experience to make conversion better. And of course, that is something you won't be able to do alone. So you'll closely work with the designer. You will give your requirements to a product designer. That product designer will get that uh, experience that you have in mind, come bring it into reality in a very beautiful fashion, and then your team engineers will code for it. So that's how the entire circle will work. But yeah, definitely it's a PM's responsibility to make the experience better, given the end metric that you are chasing. So that's typically how it works. For a user facing PM, they typically have a end user metric that they're chasing, and that end user metric can always be tied back to, say, the user experience that they see. So that's how it works. Even saying changing like a color from white to blue or white
Yeah,
to green can improve, say, particular funnel and increase your conversions better. So why not? That's
yeah,
where the PM kicks
yeah. That's well put. I think attaching it to metrics was a very objective way to look at it for sure. Yeah. I think another question by Ronak. He Yeah, Ronak is asking any advice for a non-tech founder leading a tech product or a tech team.
So, like I said, it doesn't matter from what your education background is,
Yeah,
as far as you are able to grasp things better. I just mentioned one of the best PMs I know is from a law background, and I know a lot of PMs who come from a, say, non-tech, non-MBA degree as well. So there's nothing like you need to understand, say, business in a very defined format, or you need to understand tech in a very defined format. There's nothing like this. As far as you have a strong business sense and you are able to identify a pain point that you're solving for, uh, there's nothing like you can't lead a tech product and a tech team. What I would just recommend, and that's typically that people do who join in from this kind of a non-tech background, is they typically invest their energies to understand the, say, the app architecture or the website architecture well, not in a generic way, but from the standpoint of the company or the startup you're founding. So you should, as a non-tech co-founder, understand the core infra or the core architecture pieces of the startup that you guys are building. And as far as you are able to understand that and solve for the end user problem, it's there's nothing like you need to do like a computer science 101 kind of a course to get this working. So absolutely not. It's a
yeah.
good to have, but it's nothing like it's mandatory thing that you
So
should have for sure.
this kind of answers the next question that we had. Tanuj has asked, and I can read that in the comments that they asked that a preference is generally given to people with MBAs, but I think you kind of touched upon like it doesn't matter where you
Yeah.
come from, right? Yeah,
It doesn't matter. From an MBA perspective, it just focuses on, say, the problem solving bits very in a very very focused way, and that's where, say, most of these MBA folks make the cut. But
yeah,
no, absolutely not. It's not a compulsion for sure.
yeah. Do you think like business teams KPIs are easily consumed by MBAs? Like they're easily understandable and hence that gives them the edge?
That also quite a bit, right? Because coming from a proper B school, you actually understand different domains, different industries, and say the different KPIs that they are optimizing for. So
Uh,
while, say, giving an interview, you have those kind of, say, business metrics in place, and you are able to articulate it well. Having said that, there is so much content now. Back when I started to, it's almost been 5 years now. When you look at it, there is huge amount of content that's available online. When you think about product management, there's no end to it. So it's nothing like only a MBA or an engineering grad can actually crack a PM role. It's absolutely nothing like that anymore.
Makes sense. Last question. I think this is kind of like in your personal space. People are kind of interested to know how gamification as a department it's been picking up. In late recent
Yeah.
history.
Yeah, I think gamification is absolutely very interesting. If you think about Pinduoduo as a case study in China, AliExpress and players they have been there for a long while, and there comes a new guy in the market, Pinduoduo, and within just the span of 3 to 4 years versus say 10, 15 years of say AliExpress or more than that, they have taken a significant share in the China market itself. And one differentiation for say Pinduoduo as a company has been purely gamification. In fact, one of the very very beautiful case studies that I was actually reading about on Pinduoduo was so what does the user? There was an imaginary tree in the app of Pinduoduo, and what you need to do is come open the app every day and like water the plant. So it's like a streak that you're asking the user to do by opening the app every day. Now, over a period of time, if you do that, that tree becomes large, it gives out flowers, and essentially it gives out fruits. So after a particular duration, whichever users actually were able to get fruits on the tree, what Pinduoduo did is actually delivered a free fruit basket to them at their homes. So it's actually you're watering a plant which goes into a tree, and you're actually getting physical fruits delivered to your home. So that was
Wow.
like a killer viral piece that happened in the China market. Um, and since then, I think it's across the world, all the commerce, video streaming, fitness, all these industries moving more and more towards gamification. It's a very very interesting charter. If you ask me, I personally absolutely love love things that people are doing in this space, and what we are also trying to do at Flipkart. Um, um, so yeah, it's a lot of user psychology, how users react to a particular thing, or what kind of effect do say rewards have on an end user's mind. A lot of these things coming in together and deployed as a construct on a given field. It actually is very interesting to see. So it's yes, it's upcoming in a lot of places, and I'm sure it has like a long journey ahead of it. It's still young, I would consider, in a lot of industries.
I think I usually ask one more question. What are the some KPIs that are in gamification department?
So, from a gamification standpoint, there is never going to be an individual KPI for gamification itself. The KPI is going to be tied up to a Uber level company's objective.
Yeah.
So, for example, let's take an example of Hotstar, right? Hotstar's KPI is getting more people to view the match or
Yeah.
watch it for a longer duration. That's the Hotstar's KPI. Now, what gamification would do and come in and is okay, here's the product that I'm bringing out in the market. Those users who are able to interact with this product, they will actually spending more time on Hotstar and open it
Yeah.
more often. So it's linked back to the Uber company level objectives, but it's a powerful tool to launch some kind of boost in those core metrics. So again, it's a percentage of how many adopt to it. Say out of 100 people, not all of them will probably actually go ahead and play any kind of a gamification construct within an app. But those who do, they see some kind of accelerated movement in their core metrics.
Awesome. Yeah, I like how you said it's like company level goals, right? Because like the goal would be to create maybe increase average session times, things like that. Keep you on that platform so that they can use ad revenue to grow their sales. Awesome. Rishabh, I know we have been a little over time, but this is so insightful, and I think we have received so many questions after a really long time. So all thanks to you, and I think you kind of brought this because of your own genius. I think you kind of inspired people to ask more questions.
No, man.
I want to, and I think these people are not done yet. In case they guys, in case you have more questions for Rishabh, you can comment on the video or you can join a Discord. The Discord link is right on the ticker, as you can see. It'll be there in the description as well. In case we get your questions, we'll make sure that it reaches Rishabh. With friends here, I'm sure Rishabh, will stay in touch with all of us and will happily answer your questions.
Absolutely,
And
Cherish. It's been a pleasure.
I want to thank you, Rishabh, for taking out the time. All of everything that you said was really insightful, as you can tell. People are, all gushing in comments and within my internal team group. Thanks so much for taking out the time, man. And I'll see you again next time, maybe.
Yeah, same here, man. It's. I really thankful for you guys for calling me over here. Thanks a lot, man. Good luck.
All right. Thanks, guys, for joining us. See you for another stream next Friday, 7 p.m. Same place, same time. SAWO Vibe Check for episode 10. Take care, everybody. Good night. Bye bye.
See you guys. Thank you. Thanks, Cherish.